Let's jump right into it. Number 10. Napoleon Bonaparte had a cat named Eponine who literally tried to assassinate him during his exile on St. Helena. Picture this. The man who conquered most of Europe, brought down by a house cat with serious attitude problems. Eponine would attack Napoleon's ankles every morning, scratch his furniture to pieces, and once knocked over a lamp that nearly set his study on fire. His guards were more worried about this 6-pound furball than any remaining royalist plots. The irony? Napoleon, who commanded armies of hundreds of thousands, spent his final years being terrorized by a cat who clearly didn't respect his military genius. It's like having Alexander the Great being bullied by a hamster. Number 9. Charles Dickens owned a raven named Grip who became the inspiration for Edgar Allan Poe's most famous poem. But here's what nobody tells you about Grip. This bird was basically a Victorian-era social media influencer, before social media existed. Grip could perfectly mimic Dickens' voice, would interrupt dinner parties by shouting random passages from his novels, and once got so drunk on wine that he passed out in front of horrified guests. Dickens loved this chaos so much he wrote Grip into one of his novels. When Poe heard about this literary bird, he thought, I need to write about a raven too, but make it way more dramatic and depressing. And that's how a drunk, attention-seeking pet bird accidentally created one of the most recognizable poems in English literature. Number 8. Winston Churchill's black cat Nelson was banned from cabinet meetings because he kept attacking important documents. Think about that for a second. In the middle of World War II, when Britain was fighting for its survival, Churchill's biggest office problem wasn't German spies or military strategy. It was a cat who had apparently declared war on paperwork. Nelson would leap onto Churchill's desk during crucial war planning sessions, scatter classified documents everywhere, and once destroyed a letter from Roosevelt by using it as a scratching post. Churchill's assistants begged him to remove Nelson from the office, but Churchill refused, claiming the cat had better instincts about people than most politicians. He was probably right, considering how many terrible decisions politicians make when cats aren't around to knock their papers off desks. Number 7. Theodore Roosevelt's pet hyena Bill reportedly bit more White House visitors than any Secret Service agent ever detained. Yes, you heard that right. The President of the United States kept a hyena as a pet, and this hyena had zero respect for diplomatic protocol. Bill treated foreign ambassadors like chew toys, caused 3 international incidents by destroying gifts from other nations, and once chased the Secretary of State around the Rose Garden while cackling like a maniac. Roosevelt thought this was hilarious and would often introduce Bill to visitors just to watch their reactions. Imagine showing up for a formal dinner with the president and having to dodge a laughing hyena that thinks your ankle looks delicious. No wonder Roosevelt's foreign policy was so successful. Other world leaders were too terrified of his pet to argue with him. Number 6. Lord Byron owned a bear named Bruno whom he brought to Cambridge University because the school rules said students couldn't have cats or dogs, but forgot to mention bears. This is exactly the kind of loophole-exploiting genius move you'd expect from a romantic poet who wrote passionate poetry and caused scandals everywhere he went. Byron would walk Bruno around campus on a leash, bring him to lectures where the bear would sit in the front row looking more intellectual than most students, and allegedly taught Bruno to drink tea from a saucer. The university administration was furious, but legally couldn't do anything because technically Byron wasn't breaking any written rules. It's like modern students finding out their dorm allows emotional support alligators because nobody thought to specifically ban reptiles. Number 5. Charles Darwin's pet tortoise Harriet outlived him by 124 years and potentially influenced his theory of evolution more than the Galapagos finches everyone talks about. While Darwin was puzzling over natural selection and survival of the fittest, he had a living example right in his garden who was casually demonstrating how to survive for nearly 2 centuries through pure stubbornness. Harriet watched Darwin develop his revolutionary theory, saw his children grow up, witnessed 2 world wars, the invention of television, space travel, and the internet, and probably thought humans were the weirdest evolutionary experiment she'd ever observed. She died in 2006 at the age of 176, making her possibly the only creature on Earth who could have personally told us what Darwin was like as a pet owner. Scientists now think watching Harriet's incredible longevity and adaptation skills gave Darwin crucial insights into how species change over time. Sometimes the most profound scientific breakthroughs happen when you're watching your pet outlive your great-great-grandchildren. Number 4. Mozart's pet Starling could perfectly sing the opening theme of his piano concerto number 17, but always changed one note in a way that Mozart said improved the melody. Imagine being one of history's greatest musical geniuses and having your pet bird giving you composition advice that actually makes your music better. This Starling was basically Mozart's unpaid collaborator, sitting on his shoulder during composing sessions, offering editorial suggestions through strategic chirping, and probably wondering why humans made music so complicated when a few simple notes could express everything perfectly. When the Starling died, Mozart was so devastated he wrote a funeral poem and held an elaborate burial ceremony, complete with a procession and mourning veils for all attendees. He grieved longer for this bird than some people mourn their relatives, which tells you everything about how much this musical partnership meant to him. Number 3. Ernest Hemingway's six-toed cats at his Key West home were originally a gift from a ship captain, and their descendants still live there today, essentially making them the longest-running literary dynasty in America. These cats have been living the perfect writer's life for almost a century, lounging around a tropical paradise, inspiring creativity, and being fed by tourists who pilgrimage to see them. They've witnessed more literary history than most English professors, probably judge every visiting writer's potential based on how well they give chin scratches, and have collectively influenced more American literature than most university writing programs. The U.S. Department of Agriculture even tried to regulate them as an exotic animal exhibition, leading to a legal battle where the government essentially sued a bunch of cats for being too famous. The cats won, obviously, because they're cats and they don't care about federal regulations. Number 2. Alexander the Great's horse Bucephalus was so devoted that he would only allow Alexander to ride him and refused food whenever Alexander was away on foot missions. This wasn't just any regular horse loyalty. Bucephalus had the emotional intelligence of a worried parent and the stubbornness of a teenager. When Alexander walked into battle instead of riding, Bucephalus would apparently go on hunger strikes until his human returned safely, force himself to stay awake all night looking for Alexander's return, and once broke out of his stable to follow Alexander into a battle on foot. Alexander loved this horse so much that when Bucephalus died in India, he founded a city named Bucephala in his honor. Think about that, one of history's most powerful conquerors, who had cities and countries begging to be named after him, instead named a city after his emotional support horse who just wanted to make sure his human was eating properly and staying safe. Number 1. Abraham Lincoln's cat Tabby was the first pet to live in the White House, and reportedly became Lincoln's primary source of stress relief during the Civil War. While Lincoln was trying to hold the country together and end slavery, he would spend hours each evening sitting with Tabby, discussing the day's problems with a cat who couldn't vote, couldn't judge his decisions, but would purr supportively regardless of how badly the war was going. Lincoln once said Tabby was smarter than his whole cabinet, which honestly might have been true since cats generally have better instincts about trust and loyalty than politicians. Tabby would sit in on important meetings, sleep on crucial documents that needed signing, and according to White House staff, had an uncanny ability to sense when Lincoln needed comfort most. When visitors asked Lincoln why he talked to his cat so much, he reportedly said that Tabby was the only one in Washington who listened without wanting something in return. In a city full of people trying to influence the president, sometimes the most honest advisor is the one who just wants their ears scratched and doesn't care about your approval ratings. I'll make similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.